And sun shining today, but it is cold. It is about 45 degrees, and with this wind chill, I bet you it's in the high 30s or mid 30s. So as always, celebrate the small victories. And today we are going to be talking about, I'm going to be sharing my screen here in a little bit on a couple of notes that I put together for all of you today. And we're going to be discussing IBS, leaky gut, autoimmunity, inflammation, just general topics on health related to the gut, and how the symptoms you may be experiencing could all stem from a leaky gut, or just some type of digestive issues that you may encounter probably occur from a leaky gut, or maybe the autoimmune condition that you have, or the challenges in your health. They all stem from a leaky gut. And I've got some great information, some great slides I'm going to put up here for you, and we'll try to make this hopefully a 10-minute video, maybe 15 minutes. So with that being said, let's get right into it, because I don't want to take up time just blabbering. So we're going to share my screen here. Here we are. And I don't know if you guys can still see my little head in the corner or not. I'll do my best to show the screen here. So IBS, leaky gut, and autoimmunity. As you can see the picture on the left, you have chronic gut inflammation. We're going to discuss some things that can contribute to chronic gut inflammation that lead to gut dysbiosis. That is an imbalance in your bacteria. That would be a overpopulated bacteria that are bad versus good, leading to a leaky gut, as the name of itself implies. Oh, well, how pretty. There's a dove right there. He just flew off. Food particles in the bloodstream, contributing to an overdriven immune system. I'm sorry, I'm like that dog who's like, oh, squirrel. That's how it felt. I mean, it literally flew like within 3 to 4 feet of me, right in my pod, my plant. So just before we start, you can see my information down here at the bottom. You can email me at upstreamvitality@gmail.com. You can go to my website, upstreamvitality.com as well. And did you know that research indicates that 61% of the United States population alone is dealing with at least one symptom of digestive dysfunction? So you name it, gas, bloating, heartburn, abdominal pain, candida. That's something that we see running rampant right now in our society. Widespread candida or yeast infections, constipation, diarrhea, both of those. Maybe you're the type of person who has to make a reservation at a restaurant with the table that's closest to the restroom, so that way whenever the urge comes, you can get up and run to the nearest restroom without having an accident on yourself. My dad was like this for many years, and I never understood what this condition really meant or what it was. And the statistics say that you're more likely experiencing one or more of these right now at this very moment too, as you speak. And living with digestive system problems has become the new normal. And you have to understand that just because it's normal, or it's the new normal, doesn't mean that it's normal. It's just simply that it's common, but it's not. Any symptom that the body's expressing isn't normal. It's a warning system that's trying to alert you, to let you know that something isn't right. And just much like the instrument panel of a car, when you're out of windshield wiper fluid or you need an oil change, a light comes on and it lets you know that you need to get that checked out. And if you leave it unchecked for a while, then it can manifest into something much bigger than what it really could. And this is exactly how our body operates. You have a headache? Well, it might be because you have a slight exposure to some type of chemical compound that you're unaware of. You might be dehydrated and just need some water. We don't know, but these are signs and symptoms that we can look for to help us key in on specific conditions of our body. And so we'll talk about some of the signs and symptoms of IBS and how this correlate. But I wanted to provide a couple of inspirational quotes by Jim Rohn. Motivation is what gets you started. Habit is what keeps you going. There's a great book out there by James Clear called Atomic Habits. Excellent book. And then take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live. I really like those. So Dr. Jockers, you can check him out at drjockers.com. He's a mentor of mine. And with his permission, he's given me the ability to use these slides in his presentation. Excellent doctor. Very thankful that he's, poured and shared into my life on health and whatnot. Are you destroying your digestive system? You can see here in this picture that we've got ibuprofen, which is a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. There's others like it, like Aleve and Advil. And then we have cottage cheese. It's a great value brand. Obviously, it's Walmart. We got Sweet and Low, Equal, Splenda. And then in the background, we have bagels, whole wheat bread, sourdough bread, or some type of bread back there, maybe just a loaf of bread. And then we have pretzels. And then we got a glass of water. It's unique because you can see the female here holding her gut, and it's showing a picture of these foods and medications. And these actually contribute to a leaky gut and to IBS or other gut-related issues like Crohn's, which is an autoimmune condition of the gut, gastroesophageal reflux disease, heartburn, indigestion, ulcerative colitis, leading to constipation, diarrhea. I used to personally take BC powders, Aleve, and Tylenols every day, probably that I can remember as far back as 2002 when I suffered from a fatal car accident and I was the only survivor. I had some massive trauma, almost lost my right arm, had lost 4 pints of blood, had to undergo two major surgeries, and my wife says that my head swelled up so big because the seatbelt had wrapped around my throat. They cut off circulation to my head that I looked like the Nickelodeon character Hey Arnold. I don't remember. I was in a coma, or I'm not in a coma, in ICU for a week or maybe longer. I don't remember. It was a blur. I was in the hospital for a long time. But from that time forward, I remember taking Prilosec OTC and just numerous painkillers. And then I had rounds of antibiotics. I was an alcoholic. I became addicted to cocaine and methamphetamines for a short period of time. I self-medicated with a lot of antidepressant drugs like Xanax and Valiums. And it was just a really hard time in my life. And I can tell you that my gut was wrecked and it heavily affected my mood. I suffered from depression for many years, and I know exactly what that is like. And I know exactly where to start in helping someone overcome depression. It's a very serious condition that many conventional doctors often overlook. So, some of the signs and symptoms of IBS, obviously we named a few: the abdominal pain, cramping, gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, excess gas, mucus in the stool is another one. So here are some facts about IBS. Again, courtesy of Dr. Jockers for letting me use these slides. So what is IBS? Irritable bowel syndrome. It's a long-standing illness consisting of frequent abdominal discomfort and bowel symptoms that cannot be explained. It causes a great deal of discomfort and distress. You can just ask my dad. He'll tell you for the longest time. There were certain things we could or could not go eat or go out to go eat because it would affect him. So only 50% of people affected by IBS actually seek help from their medical provider. Women are more prone to IBS as gut hormones can be influenced by reproductive hormones, and 12% of the U.S. population suffers from IBS, and that's nearly 40 million people. And it's more common in people under the age of 45, yet it does affect the entire age group. And then there's nutrition strategies and natural supplements that can help ease the symptoms of IBS. And we can look more at that in this presentation here. This is just a very short presentation. So we have all of these stressors. So this is like what I was taught by Dr. Pompa, this stool. So we have on the seat autoimmune conditions. And when you knock out one of the legs of these stools, or the legs to the stool falls over. It loses its balance. And so that's what happens. And you can see all these bubbles on the outside here that there's toxins, carcinogens, heavy metals, viruses, pollution, bacteria, mold, germs, vaccines, parasites. I mean, you name it. All of these different types of stressors that can affect us in a way that can lead to an autoimmune condition. So, doctors diagnose IBS when a person has recurrent abdominal pain at least 3 days per month in a 3-month period, associated with 2 or more of the following. That's improvement with bowel movement, onset associated with a change in stool frequency or consistency. And I can tell you that my wife, even though we never received a formal diagnosis because we never sought out conventional mainstream medical care, that just based on her symptoms and what she experienced was, very debilitating abdominal pain, cramping, gas, bloating, constipation. We're going one bowel movement, every 2 days, maybe even sometimes once a week. And that's just not good at all. And I want to talk a little bit about inflammation and shift the conversation just for a bit before we get back onto leaky gut and IBS. And so inflammation is obviously the body's natural response or defense mechanism, and it's your immune system's response to cellular energy through increased blood flow, capillary dilation, leukocyte infiltration, and the production of cytokine chemical mediators. In essence, it's a perceived threat or injury that causes inflammation. Like when a sore shoulder or a swollen knee or ankle becomes kind of red, inflamed, warm, a little swollen. These are sometimes inflammation can be good, but it's the low-grade chronic inflammation over time that leads to widespread systemic inflammation and it leaves you, the person, vulnerable to such conditions as cancer, atherosclerosis, autoimmune conditions like lupus, multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, and such. And so it's a complex process involving the body's white blood cells and the chemicals that they produce, such as these cytokines and these antibodies. And these are then released into the blood or affected tissues to fight any type of foreign invader. So it protects you from, the hostile microbes, like you see on this slide here, the parasites, the mycotoxins that are produced by mold or these pathogenic bacteria, by eliminating these agents, and then it repairs the damaged tissue. And what happens is when this occurs again and again and again and again, it creates collateral damage from the cleanup process where the body begins to mistake its own tissue as these foreign invaders, such as in the case of Hashimoto's, where our body attacks our thyroid gland. And while inflammation can obviously be a necessary and even beneficial part to your body, it can also, like I said, be very harmful. And so that's what we want to look at when we're understanding the role of inflammation in our gut, coming through the foods that we eat, or just, our everyday exposure in our environment. So low-grade chronic inflammation is systemic and can last for many months or years, and this inflammatory state is associated with a wide range of health conditions, including metabolic syndrome, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, where stats are now showing 1 in 3 people are walking around unknowingly with a non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, type 2 diabetes, cancer, Alzheimer's, and heart disease. So what causes inflammation of this nature are things that place an excessive stress on the body. So we have to think of this allostatic load in terms of our environment, both external and internal. And as you can see here on the slide, we have multiple stressors. And this can be mental, emotional stressors, especially in times of uncertainty like this with an economic shutdown, people losing jobs, getting laid off, having hours cut back. It's a big financial loss. And so the financial worry of just this situation right now, the coronavirus, can input a lot of stress on a family whenever they're having to go through struggle to provide for their family. And then we've got the added stressor of having a poor diet and then chemical exposure, and then our genetics. Our genetics are like light switches. They can be turned off or on based on the lifestyles that we choose to live. And so these are a lot of warning signs that you may experience here concerning IBS. It could be bacterial, yeast, or a parasitic overgrowth. And for many people, like my wife, she had a bacterial infection of H. pylori, which is going to inhibit the production of stomach acid, which is also going to inhibit the absorption rate of vitamin B12. So just with that one bacterial infection in and of itself, you can have nutritional deficiencies and nutrient deficiencies. In people with autoimmune, B vitamins and vitamin D are massive, or they are widespread, is what I mean. And then zinc deficiency as well. And we need zinc to help heal and seal off our gut lining to rebuild its integrity. So I have over here titled IBS a gut feeling, because it is a feeling in your gut, but it also gives you feelings of malaise, not doing so well, depression and anxiety. There's many psychological factors that coincide with IBS. And as you can see that there's many factors on the screen which contribute to the development of IBS, including food sensitivities, gut infections, dysbiosis. Again, this is having an overpopulated gut with bad bacteria and a leaky gut. All of this breaks down the mucosal barrier within our gut. And then stress is a major contributing factor to IBS, and stress of any kind left unchecked will create chaos within the body and will cascade over into different bodily systems, whether that's your thyroid, your liver, your adrenal glands, or what have you. It will affect, it's a whole systems-wide thinking that we have to take. And this is what functional medicine, functional diagnostic nutrition has taught me on how to identify these stressors that are often hidden many times in people's chronic health challenges. And then I go in and teach people how to heal themselves using lifestyle behaviors and the right nutrition, the right supplements, and then getting really the right lab tests in their hands so they can identify these hidden stressors. And one that I really love to use on everybody that I look at is called a GI map. It's a comprehensive stool analysis test that will allow us to take a microscopic look at your balance of bacteria. If you do have any parasitic infections or bacterial infections, or if your first line of defense, because 80% of our immune system is located within our gut, so it'll let me know if your immune system is just, wiped out. And the ongoing inflammatory stimulus of all of these factors here in this picture is what results in white blood cell recruitment and increased inflammation and changes to cells. And so these white blood cells will eventually attack internal organs or other tissues and cells. And then this inflammatory response will continue until the factor that causes inflammation is addressed. And then for my wife's case, we have a very multi-therapeutic approach put in place, because not only is it gut issues I'm dealing with, but heavy metals too. So, many people with IBS have suffered for decades without relief, and their previous doctors really couldn't find the cause of illness. So they were just told to, go get more fiber or take Metamucil, or were prescribed sedatives, antispasm drugs, or antidepressants. And that's really bad, because now we're exacerbating the problem and worsening the situation for the person, because they're not really investigating the underlying cause to their condition. And there's a lot of information that I have on this. And so here's another thing to look at in terms of food sensitivity symptoms. And this is why I really love using the Oxford Biomedical MRT test, and that stands for Mediator Release Test. As you can see here on the right, food sensitivities can worsen a problem, and many doctors do not check for this in the office. When they think of food sensitivities, they really think food allergies, which is a complete different response. A food allergy is the classic case of the little boy who, when he eats a pecan or a peanut, he'll go into an anaphylactic shock and his throat begins to swell, or he busts out in hives, and he has to have an EpiPen on hand just in case of a life-threatening issue, much like someone who's allergic to shellfish or such. This is a true allergy. Now, food sensitivities, you can see on this little rainbow chart here that we've got excess water retention because of our hormone aldosterone that controls our potassium, sodium, and water retention balance, nasal congestion and constipation, rashes, itchiness, skin problems like eczema and psoriasis, even vitiligo and scleroderma, which are autoimmune conditions of the skin. We've got candida, which is oftentimes a secondary infection to something else that's going on within the gut, headaches, insomnia, and even migraines. And then we've got autoimmune diseases, things like lupus and multiple sclerosis, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, Hashimoto's is a huge one, fatigue and cravings. Many people experience cravings for highly refined processed carbohydrates because the body's wanting sugar. So the cravings for sweets often is a really hard one to kick. Dark circles or bags under the eyes is a telltale sign of food sensitivities. Depression and mood swings. I can't tell you how many people are in depression or taking antidepressants that do not work because they're not addressing the issue. They're just trying to modulate the serotonin uptake receptors on a cell to better a person's mood using things like Lexapro or Paxil or Zoloft or whatever. And then we have indigestion, which can lead to GERD, heartburn, leaky gut, and bloating. These are huge. And then we also have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which is oftentimes another secondary infection or a symptom of some other underlying cause. And then we have muscle aches and joint pain, and that can lead down the road to obviously things like rheumatoid. Here's a great representation of a healthy gut versus a leaky gut. And as you can see on the left-hand side, the leaky gut there, the healthy gut there, it works like a cheesecloth. So if you ever thought of or seen one of those cheesecloths that are used to strain out liquids but hold the nutrients, that's exactly what your gut is designed to do. And you have pathogens. We've got this nice microbial ecosystem that lives in our gut that consists of bad bacteria, good bacteria, pathogens, and everybody has a residence of candida in their gut. It's just when it becomes a problem because it can become opportunistic and overgrow. All of this stuff can begin to break down that gut lining that you see there. That word tight junction is kind of what holds the stomach lining together, but when it begins to break apart, it becomes loose. And then as you can see on the right hand side, we have now compromised tight junctions and then reduced nutrient absorption, leading to malnutrition, malabsorption, and nutrient. We don't get to absorb our nutrients. Nutritional deficiencies. That's what I'm trying to say. And then these particles will begin to leak through right into that bloodstream down there where we create an immune response. And so drinking water, why did I mention this earlier? Because drinking water, if it's not properly filtered very well, it can contain pharmaceuticals, as I alluded to yesterday, chlorine and fluoride, both which have a detrimental effect on our gut microbiome and our intestinal lining. The artificial sweeteners that I showed in the picture before, they have really dangerous ingredients, saccharin, that can also tear up the gut lining. And then we have pasteurized dairy and that cottage cheese that was in that photo, which, it's not organic and it's not grass-fed. So it's going to have a ton of hormones and antibiotics in them. And then the high heat pasteurization will actually create more dangerous chemicals that can affect and inflame the body for bad. So, this is going to lead to a pro-inflammatory state because these cattle are fed grains, which are high in omega-6, which can promote inflammation. And gluten and grains, obviously eating a lot of oatmeal or any breads, especially highly refined processed flour, when it's bleached and it's refined, and pastas and brown rice, all of these are very inflammatory in general, and the lectin compounds in these can also help break down those tight junctions and mediate for leaky gut. So I wanted to describe to you something from the National Institute of Diabetes, Digestion, and Kidney Disease. It's a branch of the National Institutes of Health. So you've heard me mention many times in previous videos the gastrointestinal tract, or the digestive system, or the gut. So what does that mean exactly? So most just think of their stomach when the word gut is mentioned, but actually the gut encompasses the entire system comprised of the following. So the liver, the pancreas, the gallbladder, which all help the body to digest food, break it down, and assimilate the nutrients from absorption to get placed into the cell for its use. And it's important for the breaking down of food into our nutrients, so that way our body can use this food as information, such as energy, growth, and cell repair. So what other health problems do people with IBS have? And oftentimes people have certain conditions that involve chronic pain, such as fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, chronic pelvic pain, certain digestive diseases such as dyspepsia and then GERD, again, gastroesophageal reflux disease, and then even mental disorders or conditions like anxiety, depression, and somatic symptom disorder. So imagine a tennis court. A tennis court's pretty big, and that is the surface area of your small intestine where food is absorbed. So your small intestine is also the site of about 80% of your immune system. And this sophisticated gut immune system is just one cell layer away from a toxic sewer of all of the bacteria and undigested food particles in your gut. So if that lining breaks down from stress, and if you go back to the slide where I showed all of these different stressors that we can have that come in, going back to right here, well, too many antibiotics or anti-inflammatory drugs like aspirin, Advil, steroids, and things like from this picture here, what happens, well, it will break down that lining right here that we see in this photo. And high sugar diets, low fiber diets, alcohol, and more, then your immune system is then exposed to all of these antigens, these particles that are coming through, and bacteria and other microbes. This will trigger and activate this immune response, and then allergies, and then histamine release, and this will irritate your second brain, the enteric nervous system that communicates on a bidirectional axis with the brain up here. So that's why we see oftentimes depression and anxiety and these psychosocial disorders in people who have mental disorders often have really wrecked guts, especially in children that are autistic, ADD, or ADHD. Obviously that can lead to arthritis and such, but the microbial ecosystem in the gut must be healthy for you yourself to remain healthy. So when your gut bacteria are out of balance and you have too many pathogenic bacteria and not enough healthy bacteria, it makes you sick and symptoms manifest. And that's where we get all of these conditions like IBS, and then all these conditions that spiderweb off of IBS. So many conventional doctors will prescribe you medications without looking at the underlying root cause of why the dysfunction is in place to begin with. And so you're taking upwards of 8 medications for mental social disorders, constipation, inflammation of the joints or whatever, and Humira, which I think in 2014, I know that's 6 to 7 years ago now, raked in $9 billion with a B. It was like the #1 prescribed drug, or pretty close to it, next to Synthroid, I think. This drug is treated to combat tumor necrosis factor alpha, TNF alpha, which is an inflammatory response. And so here people are being prescribed Humira to help combat pain from things like IBS and Crohn's and the like, but really it's not addressing the root problem. So these people still have an underlying condition, and now they're taking a pharmaceutical compound that's going to further break down their gut and contribute to problems later on in life. Instead of, so we're just masking the symptoms and the problem by not addressing the root cause issue. And, at some point, you're going to have to realize that you're going to need to seek health from a true expert that's been trained in functional medicine to identify the root cause of one's issues. And this is what I do. This is how I help people get their life back. It's, when people have autoimmune conditions, like my wife with her IBS conditions and Hashimoto's and mercury toxicity, it's always rooted in digestive dysfunction. And we saw that whenever I ran this comprehensive stool test on her. It showed she had some severe dysbiosis going on, some key microflora that were just absolutely non-detected. And she had Giardia, a very nasty parasitic infection that can actually be obtained from your tap water. And a normal person who has a healthy gut, their immune system can fend this off, and it won't, nestle in the mucosal lining of the gut and wreak havoc. But in a person who's compromised and vulnerable, it can sure, burrow in and develop and build a house and take care of some things while you are trying to take care of yourself. And, obviously this can create a whole host of just problems all around. So that's why I employ a holistic perspective of diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and that's where I'm an expert at, especially looking at heavy metal toxicities and autoimmune conditions and gut health, and being able to restore that using a targeted supplementation approach based on a person's lab results, and then helping them heal themselves through a holistic process. So diet has a huge impact on IBS symptoms, and eating a highly processed standard American diet can initiate and worsen IBS symptoms. Again, pro-inflammatory foods such as refined sugars and starches, factory farmed meats, processed foods, and toxic oils all activate the immune system and lead to inflammation. And it's when we allow this inflammation to continue on that it brings forth autoimmune conditions, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis, lupus, and Hashimoto's, and then further on dementia, Alzheimer's, cancers, and disease. And they're mainly lifestyle driven, and we can fix that with lifestyle choices. And so when a person really has leaky gut, undigested food particles and toxins, as I spoke of here in this article, this picture, they pass through those holes where the compromised junctions are on the screen into the intestinal wall and into the bloodstream, which causes the chronic inflammation because the immune system is now overreacting. So here is what healthy digestion choices by balancing your system, how it leads to a better health. So we see a better digestive system creates better energy and produces better assimilation of your nutrients, so your cells can get adequate nutrition, so your body can have the right fuel, the right information to thrive and not just survive, and then allows for better detoxification. And I'll leave you with this analogy. So if you think of your system as a river, it's this nice ecosystem of constant flow and movement, as opposed to a pond where we have stagnation and no movement at all. And that's where many people are at. They're stuck in this pond. They fall off this waterfall and they're trying to keep themselves afloat with medications that I call life jackets, and they're just kind of hanging around. But what we want to do is we want to get things moving. We want to rebuild function and resiliency to give people their health back. And as a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, that's how I work, and that's how I help people restore themselves to better health and beauty, because beauty starts from the inside out. And if you have any type of these digestive issues, I challenge you to join my Facebook group, Healthy Gut, Beautiful You. And you can reach out to me again, upstreamvitality.com or upstreamvitality@gmail.com. I love talking with people, so free health consultations where we can discuss your chronic health challenges and figure out if we're a right fit for one another with my philosophy. And I would love to work with anybody that I can who have digestive issues, autoimmune conditions, and heavy metal toxicity, because that's my experience. That's what I had to deal with on myself, my children, my wife, and a couple other people to help them get their life back, ultimately give them the optimal energy that they want so they can function, run around with their children, not be fatigued at 2 o'clock, or get through a full night's sleep and actually wake up refreshed instead of dragging butt all day. These are the things that I do and help teach people. So I want to thank you for being with me today on this quick little program here on IBS, leaky gut, and autoimmunity. Here's my contact information on that page, and I'll welcome you again on the next one tomorrow. You folks have a wonderful and blessed afternoon. Stay warm out there wherever you're at, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much. And if you found this of any a benefit to your information, please like it and share it to get myself out there and to help me let people know that I exist and that I am here to help serve people by fixing their health and by helping them live the lives that they always wanted. So thank you so much, Christopher Wilson. I will sign off and see you guys next time.